So, good morning and welcome to this live chat organized by the IEEE Women in Engineering. My name is Carmen Menoni, and I would like to thank you for joining us today. So, I will first start this conversation, this live chat, by telling you a little bit about me. And then I am going to, open up I will give you the opportunity to ask questions, and then I will also tell you a little bit on my role of editor-in-chief of the IEEE Photonics Journal and how it all started, and what are the challenges and what are the rewards of such an experience. I would like to thank the IEEE, Women in Engineering program for giving me this opportunity to chat with all of you and to make my volunteering activities visible to all of you and give you an opportunity to sample how rewarding it is to participate in the IEEE. And also, I would like to thank the IEEE Photonics Society for organizing this event. And in particular, I would like to thank Kiana Tennant and Lauren Meaton, who are the architects who are putting together this live chat video. So just as a way of introduction, I would like to tell you that I'm talking from the campus of Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado. This is where I work. I am a professor of electrical and computer engineering. I also hold appointments in the Department of Chemistry and in the School of Biomedical Engineering. So I've been at Colorado State for many years. Actually, this is also the place where I did my PhD. I am from Argentina, and I came to the U.S. many years ago to work on my PhD research at Colorado State University. And actually, my PhD is in physics. It's not in engineering. However, the work that I did in my PhD research had to do with semiconductors physics. And therefore, that's an area that could certainly be, either applied physics or electrical and computer engineering. So after I graduated and after a couple of years of postdoc, I applied for a position, for a professorship position at Colorado State University. And I was successful in that search. I got the position, and since then I've been in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, and I basically climb up the ladder from assistant professor to full professor. Actually, I am the first female faculty in the department to achieve tenure and to achieve the rank of a full professor. So, so I have a question that is asking me why I wanted to be an engineer, and I am going to address this question in a little bit, and you will, as I tell you a little bit more about me. One of the reasons why I chose to do science and early on is because I always loved math and I enjoyed it very much. But when I finished high school, I didn't really want it to be a mathematician. I like applied things, and I like to work with my hands. So therefore, that's the reason why I decided to go into physics. And I did my undergraduate in physics in Argentina. And when I finished, my undergraduate, then it was, I had to make a decision what was going to be the next step. And obviously, an obvious next step was to go to graduate school. And so I applied to different schools here, and then chose to come to Colorado State University. So I finished my PhD, and after I finished my PhD, there was another, stage of, well, what do I do next? Do I go to work in industry? Do I go to work at the university? And do I apply for a faculty position? And I have, I love teaching, I love being with the students. So therefore, the question of should I, continue, should I apply for a faculty position was almost answered yes immediately. So that's what I have been doing for the last 20-something years. So being a faculty member in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Colorado State University and at any university involves different activities. I mean, we do teaching, we are also expected to do research, and we are also expected to do surveys. And that's why, all of these professional activities related to the societies are very much encouraged while you are, during your, in your profession as a professor. So, for the very first few years, during the time that I was an assistant professor, I started working on research projects that were very much related to my PhD research. And so I transitioned from trying to understand electronic properties of silicon and germanium to working on materials like gallium arsenide and indium phosphide, 3,5 materials, and then transitioning to devices, laser diodes. And they are our work, contributed to the understanding of some of the fundamental properties of laser diodes in terms of characteristics of emission and in terms also of the modulation bandwidth. So I did this work on the very first, I would say, 7 to 10 years of my tenure here at CSU, and I trained many students, masters and PhD, on areas like spectroscopy and again high pressure physics and device physics. So about 10 years ago, I basically had the opportunity to develop a new, to start a new area of research. And this actually was motivated, it was motivated, number one, by the donation from VICO, which is, it's an industry that makes equipment for growth of materials and so on, and diagnostics. VICO donated to Colorado State University a deposition system that to develop amorphous materials, dielectric amorphous materials. So that gave me the opportunity to start new work on developing multi-layer dielectric coatings for high power lasers. So that was a completely new area. So, my team, my students, myself, had to start learning how to, operate the systems, how to really define new areas of research based on the new possibility to grow these materials. And we have been very successful because with the support of the funding agencies, I have, developed a very active research group in this area. Actually, we are the only group in the United States with these, capabilities. I also, at the same time, started to collaborate with colleagues here at CSU and at University of Colorado and University of California at Berkeley. And with this team, we were successful in the competition of an engineering research center. This is an NSF-funded program. It's a 10-year program. And basically, we competed and we were funded to establish the Engineering Research Center in Extreme Ultraviolet Science and Technology. So now I started to work in a completely new, different area, but using all of my engineering principles to develop optical probes like microscopes, like probes that can actually look at composition at the nanoscale. And all of these probes use light that is generated in lasers, very bright lasers that emit in a region of the electromagnetic spectrum that is called extreme ultraviolet and soft X-ray, and that comprises wavelength between approximately 10 and 50 nanometers. This work has been really exciting and has given us the opportunity to make inroads into, as I mentioned, and developing new microscopes, new methods for nanopatterning, new methods for nanofabrication. So this is just a summary of what my research path has been and during all these years. Now I am going to change gears a little bit, and I am going to tell you about my involvement with the IEEE. And let me start by saying that getting involved with the societies is an absolutely, is such a rewarding experience that is hard to describe with words. The society, for me, is part of my, I would say, family structure. And I have had, it's been a fantastic opportunity, what they have provided, and I will elaborate this a little bit. The way that I started involved with the society was actually very early on as an assistant professor. I became the advisor, the IEEE student advisor here in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. That was my very first involvement with the IEEE. And actually, I had the opportunity to work there with very enthusiastic students that had all kinds of ideas on how to help students and also how to support society. Just to give you an idea, and this was a keynote of the group. At this time of the year, we had a drive, and actually in that drive, we would collect money from the faculty, from other students, and we had a Thanksgiving dinner. We would actually go, then buy all of the food that actually then we put in bags and we deliver to some of the Fort Collins residents. That was one of the activities that it was very rewarding. So I did this. I was a student advisor for almost 10 years. And as I said, it gave me the opportunity to really interact with the students at all levels, from freshmen to seniors. At the time, I was teaching a freshman class, so that meant that it was easy to actually recruit students to join the student chapter. So in parallel, about at the same time, I also became engaged with the IEEE Photonics chapter in Denver. And this chapter actually, we met once a month and had talks and, from invited speakers from around the area. So this, allowed me again to network with people, because when you are participating in these activities, then you can actually you meet people and, uh, and get the opportunity to establish collaborations. So I will stop here to take a question, and and then I will continue telling you about my involvement with the IEEE. So the question is, your advice to do you advise to new graduate students starting out in industry? This is a question that I have to answer, I would say very carefully, because there is no one way there is no one single path to professional development. So I think, that if your interest is in working in industry, obviously that's your path. If you're interested in working in an academic environment, in an academic environment, if you apply for a faculty position at a university, then how you're going to be evaluated is basically by your publications. And so it is possible that, especially in electrical and computer engineering, there are many areas in which there's work that is being done at industry that is also being done, research that is being done at industry that is also being done at the university. So therefore, if one, if you start you apply to an industry position, but then you change your mind and you want to come back to an academic position, then what you need to be sure is that you publish. And then there are opportunities. Obviously, how do you prepare in graduate school to become an attractive candidate for both academic positions and industry positions? Is you have to publish. So that I think you need to have it very clear in your mind that you have to build your resume in this way. I have another question that relates to the participation of a students member to become editors or reviewers for IEEE. And student members, senior graduate students, yes, they can be reviewers for the IEEE. And so to sign up to be a reviewer, for example, in Photonics Journal, you need to go to the website of Photonics Journal, which is www.photonicsjournal.org. And if you will see on the sidebar to the right that there is a sign up button that you can click, and you will be taken to another website where you can actually input your information, and yes, you can be reviewed. Now, as far as becoming editors, the IEEE, the publication guidelines suggest that editors for the journals need to have a professional trajectory, and so therefore they need to be either senior members or fellows. So I will move on to continue telling you about my involvement with the IEEE. So, so after becoming a after being a few years in the, I went through the ranks of secretary, vice president, and president of the Denver chapter. I became involved with the Photonics Society, and the Photonics Society is, the thrust of the Photonics Societies is basically advanced technologies in photonics technologies and knowledge. And of course, I have a background in optics. I have a and so this is the best fit for me. So I became involved, and of course, I participate every year in the conference in the IEEE Photonics Society annual meeting, and this is how you start networking and meeting people, and so then you get invited to participate in committees, and so I became part of the conference committee, organizational committee. And then after that, in one of these conferences, I was offered to, present my nomination as a member of the Board of Governors. And that's exactly what I did. And I was elected to the Board of Governors. And so I served for about a year. And a year after I was in the Board of Governors, I was invited to apply for a vice president for publication. So I was then selected vice president for publication. And I tell you one thing, it was quite a challenge, when when they ask you to serve in these roles. Number one is you have to, the previous VP Pub has been very successful. So there you have, you have a bar that now you have to, fulfill. But in addition, we had, we had new opportunities, and actually some of these opportunities had to do with the fact that, the internet now was widely available. There were new models of publishing archival papers. And so therefore, we had, I was actually very enthusiastic and on promoting, some of the journals of the society to become strictly online journals. And actually, what we were looking at is to transition into an open access type of model. So this was, this imagine was, an experience in which you basically take, you have an idea, and you have to actually promote your idea and actually convince everyone on the different steps, everyone who will need to give you approval to actually have a concrete outcome, positive outcome to to your proposal. So so this, obviously, the very first step to establishing a new journal is you need to have the support of the society, and the Board of Governors and the president and past presidents of the society were all very supportive, and in fact, the president at the time of the society was extremely supportive. So we embarked in this new venture that was to establish a new journal, and this we had decided was going to be an electronic journal. There was not going to be paper copies, and it was going to be open access. So after we set our goals, we started to talk to the IEEE, and there I had fantastic support from the Photonics Society to move forward and talk to the IEEE. And this was actually a really great experience because we were pushing new boundaries for the IEEE. There was no other journal of this kind at the time that we were proposing. So we had to start working with publications, and in the process, we have to really work on the idea. We have to think about details. Like, for example, we wanted to have a fast turnaround to publication journal. So therefore, we had to discuss and work with the IEEE to provide such service. So actually, the IEEE helped us in this way by establishing a new method for copy editing. Copy editing is the process whereby when the paper is accepted, then it goes to people that are going to read it, look that there are no typos, that the paper looks very good, and they are the ones that produce the galley proofs that then are sent to the author before the paper is published. So they establish a much faster copy editing process, and so with that, we were confident that we would be able to actually publish a paper from the time of receipt to online publication in about 6 weeks. And this is exactly what we are doing right now. Now, when we went to the IEEE boards to secure, to discuss our new product, we wanted it to be open access, but at the time, the IEEE thought that they were not quite ready to go completely open access, and so they gave us the opportunity to operate in a mode that is hybrid open access. And hybrid open access meant that when authors pay the fee to put the paper open access, we will make it available open access. This lasted for about a year and a half and so on, but since January 2012, we have actually been completely open access. So now, if you go to www.photonicsjournal.org, and if you click on current issues, that will take you to the IEEE Explore homepage. And actually, you will be able to access any of the papers that are published in Photonics Journal. You will see that Photonics Journal, because it's an online journal, has a different feel and look than the other IEEE journals. Photonics Journal publishes on one column because it is supposed to be read online. And then because we don't have a cover, what we decided is that each article would actually would have a cover, and so we call that a graphic abstract. So I have a question that says, which are my most memorable experiences as an IEEE volunteer member? I think I have touched upon some of those. Clearly, working with the students in developing different mechanisms to help other students. For example, these students worked on establishing mentoring, advising, and so on to other students. They were also tutoring other students, and as I mentioned, we were doing this Thanksgiving drive that it was extremely a rewarding experience. That's one of them. I think, that my next, my other memorable experience is actually this experience that is related to creating the journal. I am very extremely happy of how things work. It requires a lot of, effort in networking with people to really try to convince them of, that this journal was going to be a successful product. And indeed, I can say we've been, Photonics Journal started in 2009. And so what I can tell you is that today, Photonics Journal is being very successful. Within the IEEE, we have, in spite of our few years of being of publishing, we have an impact factor of 2.32, which is very good. And that's one of my goals. My goals is to actually increase the reputation of the journal, increase impact factor. So that's what, I consider, my most memorable experiences. I have a question about the leaders in 25, big cells and PIN devices on silicon. I will actually defer on that question because I don't have the information. It will take me some time. I don't have the information on the top of my head, and it will take me some time to do, research to answer the question. So now I'm going to tell you about some of the features of IEEE Photonics Journal, which, as I said, this is one. This has been one of my pet projects, and I have really, devoted a lot of effort to make this journal successful. And as I said, I have been fortunate to have the Photonics Society and the IEEE support my efforts. Believe me, every time I went to meetings of the Photonics Society and of the IEEE, all the time, I am just, like someone knocking always at the doors. Okay, remember that you're going to do this for Photonics Journal. Remember, I want to do this. I want to try this, and so on. So it's been, it has taken, of course, a lot of my, drive, and focus to really try to get to where we are today. And this is, for all of you who are, starting in the profession, actually this is exactly the way that we, that this is how you have to approach every single one of your projects. And I am a very passionate person. I love to do research, and when I love to learn. And when I get in the project, I did it until, I learn and I move it forward. And the same with my, happened with my volunteering activities. So I have a question that is asking me to talk about the scope of the journal. Photonics Journal has a very broad scope. We are, and so we accept papers across the broad area of photonics. And what is photonics? Photonics relates to the generation and utilization of light. So, for example, some of the topics that you will see if you go to the home site relate, receive and publish papers on laser sources, lasers that emit from the deep infrared to the extreme ultraviolet soft X-rays and even shorter wavelengths, incoherent sources across the electromagnetic spectrum, application, photonics technologies, integrated integration. We also publish work in nanophotonics and biophotonics, and we also encourage authors to submit their work, those who are working, for example, in the area of photovoltaics and also in areas of optical communication. So the spectrum of Photonics Journal is very broad, and we also try to encourage authors in interdisciplinary areas that are at the edge between electrical engineering and chemistry, electrical engineering and devices. You know, electrical engineers do devices, but sometimes, you know, even signal processing. Those are the type of, you know, signal processing and driving, you know, and modulation of optical devices for communications applications and so on. So I have a question that says, which key skills do you think are important to excel in our world of photonics? Well, the key skills that I think are necessary to for the success in the research are, of course, you know, dedication, and you need to be when you know, in working in certain areas, you need to really somehow think of, you know, what's the future? Where am I going? Where can I make an impact? And so those are questions that should always drive your research. I have a question. It says, what are the contributions women have made in getting their work published in Photonics Journal? You know, I don't have statistics on this because we are not. I mean, the journal is open to you know, has a broad audience, and we don't keep the statistics on women. But I would like to tell you that in the associate editors boards, we have very talented female associate editors and very talented male associate editors. So I count with their expertise to make a sound editorial decision. So, so I will take this question, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit what is my my role of editor-in-chief. So the next question is, what is the best advice you have ever received in your profession? Okay, I can tell you what is the best advice I have ever received. The best advice has been, look outside. What it is important is not what your colleagues in the immediate environment think, but rather what is the broad network of peers think of your work. And I think that this was by far and continues to be, you know, something that I always have in my mind. I need to get my work, you know, evaluated by the community as a whole. And that's the reason why I publish. That's the reason why I go to conferences. And that's the reason why I network with people. And this is also very important because, for example, when you are in a academic environment, the metric of evaluating your work also comes from what the broad community thinks of your work. Okay. So now I have a question that is giving me the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about IEEE Photonics Journal. IEEE Photonics Journal, I was going to tell you what is my role as an editor-in-chief. Well, as an editor-in-chief, I am basically the gatekeeper, you know, to make sure that there is a smooth operation of the journal, but also to think of new, you know, ideas of how to promote the journal and so on. So, for example, you know, when we were planning Photonics Journal, and at the beginning, when I became the founding editor of IEEE Photonics Journal, I considered that it was very important for a photonics journal to actually have a venue to bring visibility to the most significant developments in the area of photonics within a certain year. So then we established Breakthroughs in Photonics. Breakthroughs in Photonics is a special focus issues that we publish every year, and that consist of short papers that are written by experts in the field, and that describe what are the significant developments within a certain year. So we are now working towards putting together Breakthroughs in Photonics 2013, and I've already have nominations of very exciting topics, advances that have taken place during this year. So I have a question on: do you think the new IPS daily newspaper will significantly increase industry participation? I think it actually will, and I think that having a newspaper that allows the Photonics Society to really broadcast advances, new concepts, and so on is very important, because it integrates industry, it integrates all of the practitioners, all of the people, including students that are working in this area. So I have another question that it says: scope of Photonics Journal does not include LEDs, lighting, and photo. Yes, it does actually. Probably is not specifically in the scope. However, we do receive papers in solid state lighting and LEDs. And LEDs are incoherent sources, so there is where you have them included. And let me tell you one thing. That's another strategy I am using with Breakthroughs in Photonics. I am trying to reach out to areas that have not been represented broadly in the society, and so that's exactly what I am doing. We are inviting experts in the field to write a breakthrough, and if you browse through previous issues, you are going to see that we do have, solid state lighting. We also have organic emitters and so on. And so my goal is to actually use Breakthroughs in Photonics as a window, to broadcast the broad scope of the journal. I have a question that about internship. How much can internship help a student? Do you know of organizations which readily recruit many students? Internships do help students. And in fact, as engineers, you have to remember, and if you are an undergraduate student, you have to remember that what you receive in the classroom is simply a component of your education. Engineers need practical training. I am convinced of that, and that's the reason why I encourage all of the undergraduate students to either have an internship in industry or to have an internship in a research lab. And that is, what I tell my students here in the Department of Electrical Engineering they should do, that, if they are, this is a research one academic institution, therefore they have at their fingertips the possibility to participate in research experiences. So yes, it's extremely important to get, to participate in internships. to participate in any type of research experience, summer research experiences or research experiences during the year while you are doing your during your undergraduate education. Now, for graduate students, that is a little bit, I mean, yes, internships could help, but the timing of the internships has to be right. And it has to be right because, again, you are trying to move forward your research, your PhD research, for example, and therefore, if sometimes, you really have to plan very well when you are going to take an internship. And of course, this is something that only you and your advisor can decide when is the right time. So we are it's 9:17, so we have about 13 more minutes to go. So I really would like to encourage you to ask questions. General questions or questions on Photonics Journal. Okay. I have a question that regarding gender inequality. What do you reckon about the gender inequality with regard to non-academic jobs for women engineers? Well, I certainly, we certainly have to face a reality, and that reality is that both, whether it is in an academic job or in industry, and especially in electrical engineering, women are on the minority. And that is, it's a reality. Unfortunately, the statistics don't show that things are changing. The percentage of women in electrical engineering after graduation is about 10%, which isn't, of course, very high. So, so as a result of this, I think that sometimes that institutions, being the university or industry that have been dominated by male, they are male dominated, therefore have to evolve in order to actually fit fit women's needs. And I am saying this because, of course, it happens to most of us. It turns out that sometimes either, your time for motherhood comes whenever you are starting a job or, like, for example, whenever you are starting a faculty position or whenever you are also starting industry, and so that means that that there are different needs in that particular case, family needs, and therefore academic institutions and industry have had to adapt, and we have actually made quite a bit of progress. So I have a bunch of questions, so I will try to be brief on all the questions that on my answers to all questions. The next question reads, how does IEEE Photonics differs from IEEE Photonics technology letters? There are differences. Number one is they are two different products. IEEE Photonics Technology Letters is a very successful journal of the IEEE Photonics Society that publishes short letters. They are up to 4 pages long, and these letters are published mainly. There's a paper copy. There is also an online copy, but there is a subscription model associated with the journal. Instead, IEEE Photonics Journal publishes papers that are longer than 4 pages. We have a cutoff at 4 pages, and we did that initially so that there will not be overlap with Photonics Journal. Now, I want to briefly mention that since Photonics Journal has been, publishing papers online, has been in existence, neither IEEE Photonics Technology Letter, which is the flagship, letter journal of the IEEE, neither IEEE Journal of Lightweight Technologies have been affected by this new product because Photonics Journal is open access and it's online only. Did I choose my engineering field? Well, as I mentioned, I have a training in physics and I work in semiconductor physics and semiconductors, spectroscopy. These are areas that you can either, and now optics, how I am working on, can either be, you can work in these topics whether you are in an applied physics department or whether you are in electrical engineering department. In the UK, this is another question. In the UK, it's very difficult to get a job after PhD is finished. They ask for 5 years experience. Any advice? Probably if the experience is required, then it would be very important to, and again, you have to, at this stage, you have to make a decision. Do I want to go into an academic job or into industry? So the preparation for each of these jobs is different. If the answer is I want to go to industry, then probably you would want to choose, to do a postdoctoral experience in a lab that has ties to industry, that the topics are have a natural transitional path to industry. So choose wisely where you will do your postdoctoral research experience. And then keep in mind that you always have to publish. You have to go to conferences. You have to promote your work in this way. Let me answer the next question. Are paper submissions professionally edited? Does PJ offer tools? Thank you for this question. Yes, indeed. IEEE has one of the highest standards in terms of reviewing papers. We actually, in order to make a decision on a manuscript, we need to have 2 solid reviews. And so, yes, every single one of our the manuscripts that come into Photonics journals are reviewed, and yes, Photonics Journal offer tools. If you go to the website of Photonics Journal, there is a link to web tools that are offered by the IEEE. Our policy also is that we will work with the authors to actually make have a final product that is of excellent quality, and so that means editing, that means working on the format and so on. I have another question, and that is relating to gender bias. Did you face any gender bias or challenges in your initial years? I would say yes. I faced some gender bias. And this should not be taken in a negative way. Again, sometimes there is blatant gender bias. Sometimes there is, I would say, there are perceptions, and there are things that people are used to doing all the time, and they don't realize that that they have to do it differently. They don't realize sometimes, people don't realize that sometimes there are some questions that they don't have to ask, but some attitudes will have to be different, or because they may make someone feel uncomfortable. But this doesn't apply only to gender bias. As it also applies, whenever you are someone who has a very different upbringing, like in my case, obviously, I have to adapt to new things. I have to adapt to the way things are in the United States, and sometimes, even I have some bias. But those are things that, with communication and trying to understand, with whom you are working, you can overcome. And actually, one of the most important aspects is you have to let people know whenever something is not, is not right, or is making you not feel right. Okay, I have another question. It says, I have been a reviewer at times for JLT, JSTQE, JMEMS, and PTL. Am I already in the database for PJ? You will need to check. And the way to check is to actually go into PJ and try to incorporate your name into the system. And if you already have an account, it will tell you if you have an account. I believe yes, because when we are selecting the reviewers, we actually access a pool of reviewers that are members of the Photonics Society. That are members and participants, people who have published previously in journals of the Photonics Society. So I only have 3 more minutes left. I have a question. It says, what is your way to stay balanced with all of your accomplishments and work, family, and other duties? Okay, so I have 2 mottos. The number 1 motto is that I have to apply my engineering principles everywhere. And so to keep balance in my family life, and this was actually even more stringent when my children were young. Now they are grown up, so I don't have, this is one aspect that I don't have to worry so much. But I just had to make things work, and I have to find solutions to them, and that's exactly what you do in engineering. And so I look for solutions, and when I need it, I look for care, for whatever solutions would help me continue with both my professional work and my family activities. So I think I will take maybe this one and one more, but then we may have to close. The question is, what are the prerequisites, qualifications for becoming an editor-in-chief of Photonics Journal? As I mentioned at the beginning, editors-in-chief of any IEEE journal are typically members of the society. You have to be a member of the IEEE. You have to be a member of in this case, the Photonics Society, that have had a trajectory, of professional accomplishments in research. As a result, if you, most of the editor-in-chiefs are fellows of the IEEE. And again, that's an honor bestowed to individuals by the IEEE that, again, is in recognition of the professional accomplishment. So for those young fellows, young students that are in the audience, you need to start working towards, developing, to doing good work, to be able to succeed, all of us who are now at the helm in these leadership positions. Okay, I think we have got to the end of this live chat. This has been really a great experience. You all had excellent questions, and I hope I had given you all of, a brief overview of, what are the important aspects of, being a volunteer in a society and working in exciting projects and really making an impact. So with that, I would like to close, and I would like to thank you all for your attention. And you can always contact me. Go to the journal website, and there is my email, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have afterwards. Thank you for your participation.